All right, everybody good? You need a mic check? All set? Good. Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm just going to let you know who's going to be speaking for us here today. We're going to start off with SEPTA Police Chief Chuck Lawson. Then you're going to hear from SEPTA General Manager Scott Sauer. And then we're going to have Philadelphia Health Commissioner Dr. Palak Raval Nelson, and then Deputy Fire Commissioner Carl Randolph. And we'll be happy to ask questions when they finish their remarks. Thank you all for coming out. I'll introduce SEPTA Police Chief Chuck Lawson.
Thank you, Andrew. Good afternoon, everyone. So at 6:17 a.m. this morning, we received the first report of the fire at our Midvale depot facility located at 4301 Wissahickon Avenue. That fire was noticed by some of our employees who work at a facility directly behind Midvale Depot. It's our Roberts Yard facility. They called the police desk at 6:17 a.m. Transit police arrived on scene within 3 minutes, and at that time noticed that more than one bus was involved in fire at that time. Transit police was followed very closely by fire department, who arrived just behind us, immediately set to work knocking down this fire. This incident prompted a pretty large response by local, state, and federal agencies, led in a unified command effort by the Philadelphia Fire Department. It eventually reached 3 alarms, and we have fire department personnel here to talk a little bit further about that. I want to say, before I turn it over to our general manager, I want to thank, and I'm sure I echo comments by a lot of the folks up here, thanks all of the agencies that responded. It was a very quick, efficient response. The coordination was extremely well, very effective, and particularly want to cite the local response by a lot of our employees that work out of the Midvale Depot. Kind of immediately started to work alongside fire department and moving equipment around, giving them better access to knock the fire down and help prevent the spread. So at this time, I want to turn it over to our general manager, Scott Sauer.
Thanks, Chief. So this occurred, as the chief said, at our Midvale district. It is our largest bus facility. The area where this occurred within the district is an area that we use for storing buses that are slated for decommissioning. What we had here is about approximately 100 buses that were slated for decommissioning. These are buses that have been replaced already and will be either sold for a nominal amount or scrapped. They're stored in this area for a year or less while we make arrangements to dispose of the vehicles. A total of 40 buses were damaged in the fire. Of those 40, 15 were prior decommissioned Proterra electric buses. These buses had not run in several years. SEPTA is involved in ongoing litigation with Proterra, and as part of that litigation, we've been continuing to store them on property. Since these buses involve different equipment than the rest of the fleet, a special plan had been in place to store them. We did this in conjunction with recommendations from the manufacturer. That process included disconnecting the batteries, draining coolant from the bus to prevent possibility of leakage, and ongoing inspections. I want to take the time to thank our employees, of course, who noticed the issue and reported it immediately. All the employees that were involved in helping to assist with the response today. As soon as we had received word of the fire, we moved a number of those decommissioned buses out to allow better access for the firefighters and also to prevent further damage. That effort was in part done by SEPTA's forces, but I also want to call out the Philadelphia Parking Authority, specifically their Executive Director, Rich Laser, City's Office of Emergency Management, Dominic Morellis, who's with us today. I called them first thing this morning, asked for their assistance. I didn't even have to get into it. They just asked me what I needed, sent over tow vehicles to help us. You're going to hear from Deputy Fire Commissioner Carl Randolph. We greatly appreciate the coordination and the effort on the part of our Philadelphia Fire Department. Truly world-class fire department we have. Everyone at the Office of Emergency Management, they have protocols in place for a situation like this. They sprung immediately into action, and we were able to really tamp down the amount of damage that was possible here. We're also coordinating with the City of Philadelphia Air Management Services and EPA on air monitoring, and we have a spill response contractor on site. For more on that topic, I'd like to introduce Philadelphia Health Commissioner Dr. Pollock Ravel Nelson to the podium.
Good afternoon. Thank you, General Manager Sauer. I want to first start by saying how grateful I am to all of the agencies that came together to support the response for this morning's fire. Between SEPTA, our fire department, OEM, water department, and state and federal agencies that sprang into action immediately, I'm confident that we have responded effectively and as quickly as possible. But we're not done responding yet. As you will likely hear from Deputy Commissioner Randolph in a moment, fire scene operations continue, and the Health Department's Air Management Services continues to respond. We have had our mobile monitoring van on site since early this morning, testing the air and allowing us to make recommendations about the safety and well-being of the air for Philadelphians. The van will be on site as long as it's needed. Because of that, we know that the air is still not entirely safe. That is why my recommendation as Health Commissioner is for residents to stay away from the area of the fire, and folks who are in that area to stay inside. Keep your windows and doors shut, close the vents to your home. Our early testing while the fire was still raging showed elevated levels of particulate matter, both PM 2.5 and PM 10, benzene, ethylbenzene, and carbon monoxide. The levels of benzene that we measured were far below the permissible exposure limit for 8 hours of constant exposure, but they were still there. As the morning wore on and we continued to test and we're monitoring on a minute-by-minute basis, we saw that the levels of all of these pollutants have started dropping significantly. I am confident that they will continue to drop into a safe zone and we will be able to get the word out at that time. Thank you for helping us to get the word out, and now I'd like to turn it over to Deputy Commissioner for the Fire Department.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good afternoon. My name is Carl Randolph. I'm Deputy Commissioner for the Philadelphia Fire Department. And before I get started, I would like to thank all of the men and women of the Philadelphia Fire Department who get up every day and respond to these types of incidents. And I thank all of our local agencies that responded and brought this incident to a really good close. So at approximately 06:13, there was a fire reported at the SEPTA depot that they just talked about. And our Engine 59, Ladder 18, and Battalion 8 responded. They noticed really quick that this fire was beyond their capability of handling, and they upgraded it to a box alarm, which subsequently, when Deputy 3 was on location, he upgraded this to a second alarm right away. A third alarm was subsequently struck at 07:25 or 7:25 a.m., and that was approximately 150 firefighters, fire personnel. We had engines, ladders, special operations unit, our hazmat units, and all on the fire ground. There were no injuries from Philadelphia Fire Department or any civilian injuries. We did experience some water issues getting water into the plant in order to put this fire out, but we actually had a really good coordination from the water department, from SEPTA, and from our units to be able to take down fences and allow us to get our hose lines in place to be able to get the water we needed in order to fight this fire. There were vehicles that were in the way, and I think it was mentioned earlier that the parking authority and SEPTA were able to remove those vehicles to give us access to the fire so that we could actually extinguish the fire. And also, as mentioned, we still have companies on location, 2 engines, a ladder, and a medic unit, and they're just wetting down and helping as SEPTA moves the buses out. They're able to wet down, and so the fire marshal can continue his investigation. All right, that's it.
Questions?
Questions?
All right.
Do you think that the fire, you don't know what caused it yet, was it the electric buses that were burning primarily?
Yeah, we don't know precisely what caused the fire at this point, but we know of the buses that were caught in the fire. About 15 of them were the electric buses. So of the 40 total, 15 were electric buses.
Scott, how many electric buses do you have on that site? It looks like when our chopper video, it looked like there was a 9 before all of them. Are the electric?
All the electrics are 9.0 or 9.1 in that sequence. There's 25 total electric buses. One was caught in a fire a couple years ago at Southern District. That bus is there on property, but and that was one of the 15 or 16 that were caught up in the incident.
Scott, for the decommissioned diesel buses, is there fuel left in the tank? Were you able to move them, or did they have to be towed? How were they moved?
So when the buses are fully decommissioned, all the fuel and lubricants are removed. The batteries are removed and drained. There were buses in there that were in the process of being decommissioned that still had fuel in them.
So for the ones that were moved, did parking authority tow them? I'm just trying to imagine.
Yeah, a combination of the parking authorities' tow vehicles, our tow vehicles, and the Office of Emergency Management sent over a private tow company to assist us.
You see that some of there are buses there that sustain more damage than the others. This one that's almost completely burned out. Do you know if that was an EV bus or that was a bus with diesel in it or any of that?
Yeah, I don't know precisely which buses are which at this point. As the commissioner said, there's still an ongoing operation. So we haven't had a chance to get in there and really assess all the vehicles.
Would some members of the public have access to that? Is there a potential that somebody walked on and decided to light something up?
Certainly there's potential that someone could access the facility, but it is way off of Wissahickon Avenue, so it's not in a public area, and it's adjacent to the railroad. So there's no walking paths or any readily available access to that location. We keep them in the back of the facility, as these are buses that we intend to dispose of.
Do you think in light of what happened today, I know you're in litigation with Proterra, and I can't remember how many of those buses had fire issues previously, but in light of what happened today, are you going to do anything with the ones that you have remaining? I don't know how many are remaining, and what will you do?
Yeah, I want to get them off site. I want to find a way to get them off site. I've already talked to our operations people about moving them off site. We have to get them off of our property, away from the potential where we could have an incident like this that could have been far worse. We don't want to lose an entire facility, and more importantly, we don't want to hurt anyone. So we want to get these vehicles off site.
Not clear if the fire started in one of those ones.
Not at all.
15 of them.
That's right.
And is there still an investigation? Has it been determined whether this is accidental or potentially arson? I mean, is that still being investigated?
So to answer that, no, there hasn't been. It's under the investigation of the Fire Marshal's office. And as I stated earlier, he has just not had the opportunity to get in and begin his investigation yet.
When you arrive, where is the fire? And when your folks arrive and see flames, is it burning at the front of the yard, in the middle of the where are they?
So it's in the rear of the yard when they arrive. So there's fire showing in the rear of the yard.
And the buses are burning when you get there.
Correct.
It's not brush. It's not anything.
Correct.
Buses are actually burning.
Correct.
And do we know how many SEPTA buses were on, SEPTA employees were on site at the bus depot when the fire went out?
At that time of the morning, we have a lot of employees coming and going because the bus operators don't stick around. They come in, they get their bus, and they leave. But what I can tell you is it is the largest facility. It runs 24 hours a day. And there's a total of 600 or so people that are on site at any given, all throughout the day. I don't know precisely how many were on site at the time of the fire, but it is a busy time of the day. It's the start of rush hour, so the buses and bus operators are coming in and grabbing a bus and leaving.
And I know you talked about the desire to get the Proterra buses off the lot as soon as possible. Is that because they have the potential to be more
Well,
costly?
there should be no potential because they're all decommissioned. But at the same time, we had an incident at Southern. We know what that was. We know that was one of those buses. And now I have this, and it's just something that we've all agreed that we don't want them anymore. So we just want to be done with them.
And just a semantic with the decommissioning, with the batteries, you mentioned earlier that you drain them. Is that the same as de-energizing?
They're disconnected, so they're de-energized. All the electric components are fully de-energized when we disconnect the batteries.
What is that?
Well, Frank, as a mechanic, why don't you come up and explain what does it mean to pull the battery off? Tell them who you are first.
Frank Brandis, interim service delivery officer. The Proterra buses, the electrical cables are disconnected to provide the power to propulsion for the bus and everything on board. The coolant that we're talking about, the technology that was used in those vehicles has coolant that runs through the batteries or next to the batteries to cool them off when they're active and in operation. As a precaution, when we stored these vehicles, we drained that coolant based on what we know from the original fire, which was determined to be the coolant leached into the battery itself and caused a short.
And the south one was caused by the coolant, you determined that?
That's correct.
So was that a detention bus or an operation?
That
Go ahead. Go ahead. That's Southern.
at Southern, we were in the process of working with with Proterra to bring them back into service. We had them out of service for another problem. They sat for a period of time. Obviously, the batteries were drained. We were following their instructions to bring them back into service, which meant bring them back to a charger in the shop. And after we got the first vehicle in the shop, we had the fire incident. And they have been out of service ever since.
How many of these electric buses are still on the lot in service?
We have 25 total. They're all stored in the area that had the affected fire today.
Now 15 are damaged, there's still about 10 of the
Correct.
buses left.
That's correct.
Any further impact, I know you guys said that only 15 of the 40 damaged are the electric buses. What's the further impact with these other ones? You guys just won't be able to sell them for scrap?
Correct. Yeah, they were in the process of being discarded through sale.
Okay, fair to say all 40 have not been on the road in years?
The diesel hybrid buses were recently pulled out of service. We replace approximately 100 buses a year with brand new buses. And as we get new buses, we pull an equal amount off the street.
Scott, was service impacted in any way across the city? Did it slow any of your employees down in terms of getting into their buses and stuff?
No, we were able to get, as I said, this was the start of our peak service time, so we were able to get all the service out. What it did affect was yard operations. We mentioned Roberts Avenue Yard is adjacent. So we had the yard shut down for the time during the firefighting operation. And so we've had to make other plans to store equipment and move employees around.
This is for the health commissioner, maybe can you kind of explain a little bit about what dangers that these chemicals that you discussed would cause?
Sure. The major chemicals of concern are really PM 2.5 and PM 10 and the benzene. I know we hear carbon monoxide, but carbon monoxide is more if you're inside an environment with carbon monoxide exposure. So we're just watching and monitoring, on a minute by minute basis as these drop.
And the 2.5 and the 10, can you kind of explain to me? I think people here.
Sure, sure. PM stands for particulate matter, and these are, if we think about them, they're like larger pieces of fragments, like I'll make it like from the soot. If you think about the particulates, and those are the things when you're breathing in, they can cause issues with breathability.
Is security on the lot? I mean, is there somebody always in a booth there, or how do you try to secure it, or do you?
So there's not a dedicated security guard, mind you, but we have employees on that lot all day, 24 hours a day. In fact, we have maintenance personnel, transportation personnel, and I believe some of the police officers report out of Midvale as well.
Yeah, so we have our K-9 unit has a main training facility at this lot. In fact, the K-9 officers were the first police officers, first responders to arrive, were the K-9 unit officers that were there. So there are K-9 officers in that facility at different points in time, pretty much every day.
Did you ask the ATF to come, or did the ATF say it just wanted to show up?
No, so ATF showed up. We have, as I said, we have a K-9 training facility at that location. All of our K-9s are trained in explosives detection, so we train on small samples of explosives that we maintain. All of that material is stored not near the fire site, but at Midvale Depot facility, and we evacuated all that out of the area long before the fire spread.
So is that why ATF came? Because
Yep.
they knew you had explosives? for
Correct.
Future training?
Yep.
So this could have been much, much worse. I don't think any of us realized that you had this on site and had gotten over there.
Yeah, I mean, it's any canine unit that maintains explosives detection canines will typically train, and these are real small samples, right? So these are not actual explosives, small samples to get the dog trained on odor.
So your canine people got the explosives out of
That's
there.
correct.
They're the ones that were.
Yes.
All good? All right, thanks, everyone.
All right.